Well, this evening's Media Strategy Mafia meeting builds on the session we had yesterday in the Media Strategy for Visionaries Open event, which was about how to get famous, or at least as famous as you would like to be for your brand within your target audience or your target market. There's such a big difference between tabloid paparazzi fame and the kind of reputational fame that we want for our brands and our businesses and the work that we do. And very often this can move around the work that you do and the success that you generate for clients themselves. Now, our focus yesterday was all about media placements, and you'll remember there were a couple of sources that we looked at, a couple of ways to get you to get you the results of and get you in front of people who are actually looking for you. Because the fact is, publications need to be filled, whether they are newspapers, magazines, or blogs, or if they are podcasts or radio shows, or if they are television shows or videos. And all those people who are putting out all that content actually really is a way to get yourself in front of an audience, because many of these audiences, especially in the online world, when it comes to social media, podcasts, blogs, and vlogs, many of these have a very niche following. So those are the people who you would like to be famous amongst. And you know what? They could be scattered all over the world. So you might actually never have to bump into them in the street. It's a very different world online. Now, if you haven't seen the session, I think all of you here today, except possibly Nikki. Nikki, did you get to catch the recording of that one? Okay, so there is a link that I'm going to share with you in the resources for today's session, where you have with our link today, and this is in your Media Strategy Mafia folder, which, by the way, I'm putting the link in the chat for you. Inside that folder, you'll find a kind of a welcome document that just introduces you to everything. And then for every theme that we do, every masterclass that we do, there's a video, and or at least there's a kind of a resource sheet, and it links through to the recording of this video once it's up, and also the Media Strategy for Visionaries Open event before that. So Nikki, you'll be able to find that there. Plus it's also all over my social media at the moment, or my LinkedIn. So you can always catch the recording. And I'm including it there so that you have a little bit of context if you want the background. But assuming that you already know that getting featured in the media could be a really good strategy for you, here is where we're headed. You saw that there are a whole bunch of ways that you can get yourself in front of eyeballs. And in our session today, we really want to look at how do you really make that happen? So the first thing we want to look at is the best ways to approach the journalists, producers, and the content creators. And let me make this one a little bit bigger. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up if you can see how to make the most of media placement screen in front of you? Is it there? Thank you very much. Okay, so one of the best ways is just see what are they looking for right now. Now, it's hit or miss, because sometimes people are looking for stories about you and sometimes they're just not. But if you have a good amount of content available to give to them, and there's somewhere where you can send them, you actually can catch these well. And I'd love to show you in a little bit more detail where they go. You heard that the most common place is to look at Help a Reporter or Harrow, and their email that they send out 3 times every single weekday is quite an overwhelming piece of information. But every now and again, there's a gem in there, and you can find that they have specific topics. So let's say you talk about healthcare, and you happen to be specializing in something like weight loss. And we actually have someone in this group who does alternative weight loss with her clients. That would be Melanie Rothman. She helps people, especially women over 40, to lose weight without dieting. So here is something that could be of value to her. And they are looking for, let's see, I think, can you lose weight without exercising? We asked the experts. So let's see, if you click that one, it takes you through to a description of this media requests. And here you can find out everything about them. You find the name of the reporter. Sometimes they will put the publication. She Finds, by the way, is quite a powerful blog, so this would be a good place to appear. We can see a special email. Now, this is a masked email address so that you cannot go and harass the reporter, because the media requests team actually want to know, they want to control your access to that reporter. And they tell you what the media outlet is and when the deadline is. Now, this is an old email, so the deadline has already passed. And then they talk a little bit about losing weight without exercising, etc., and their requirements. So they say, please, only if you're a board certified dietitian, nutritionist, practical medical professional, or a personal trainer. Now, in other words, this would mean that possibly if you are not working in that field, you won't be able to qualify as a source. But this is basically the process. You now go and read this very carefully and use their email address to write back to that reporter with your pitch. And we'll talk in a moment a little bit more about how to make sure that they will value and enjoy that pitch, and you have the best possible chance of success. So this is what Help a Reporter looks like. It is like taking a drink from a fire hose, because they give tons and tons of information, but it can be a very, very good source just because there is so much quantity. And through this platform, I have found even very, very newcoming coaches and experts opportunities in very well publicized media that got them international exposure with a very well-targeted niche market in a very well-followed publication. So Harrow can be a good source. But as you can see, it doesn't look terribly sexy. It's a little bit of reading to go through. And if you are a little bit more discerning, you might want to put a filter on your emails, or what is called in Microsoft Outlook, a rule for your emails, and just look for keywords that you speak on. So if you are a weight loss expert, you're going to look for weight loss, nutrition, health, wellness, this kind of keyword. So you only get this email if there is something relevant and you don't have to sift through everything. So that's Harrow. And by the way, if you missed the link yesterday, that is helpareporter.com. The next media alerts opportunity is from SourceBottle. Now, this one is run by a woman, and you can see all the difference, right? We get a beautiful pink colored, nicely laid out newsletter with pictures. Much, much, much more fun. And you don't send an email, you go rather click on the link. And this is what you then get. Now, to make use of SourceBottle media requests, you actually do need to open an account with them. It is free of charge, and then you get these beautiful newsletters 3 times a day. Again, you could set it up with keywords, so you only get the ones that could be relevant to you. So here they're looking for information about the benefits of beach running. It's for Australia, and here is the outlet or publication. They might not say who it is. They just say it's a lifestyle publication. They will often say it's a national publication or an international or an online or podcast or a blog. So you can find out more here, but you don't have all the information. And then they ask, does your source need to be local? This is important, especially if the publication is in Australia, but these guys don't care, so you've got a chance. So here you can say, if you're looking for experts that know the benefits of running on the sand and how that can impact your joints and bones, you can respond here. Here's your deadline, and so on. They say you won't be paid. And here you just fill out a little form with your information. As you can see, you can't send too much text. You can send an attachment, but it has to be quite small. And you can send your name and email. Now, the challenge becomes, what can you put in that tiny little text box that is going to entice the journalist to publish your main points, but also not make them tune out and give them really what they want? Because journalists, well, they very often work on a tight deadline. So you really want to accommodate their deadline, give them exactly what they're looking for with sharp bullet points and a really enticing reason why you are the expert that they want to quote. So you've only got that one chance to make the first impression. Make sure that when you make that first impression, you show them that you and nobody else is the answer to their prayers. And that is Source Bottle. Now, all of you who are here this evening are South Africans, so the local option is Media Alerts at mediaalerts.co.za. Every morning of the week, 10:30, you can set your clock by their email, and they will let you know exactly where there is an opportunity to be published. They usually have a few categories. On Fridays, they have a joke, which is even usually quite funny, and I tend to appreciate by that time of the week. But they will then share here local publications, radio stations, podcasts and blogs, and even TV stations from time to time that are looking for contributors. Now, a little secret is that in here, they also use a masked email address. So you can't actually directly reach out to the journalist. But journalists here tend to be a little bit more forthcoming. So you can always go and connect with them on LinkedIn, go and introduce yourself, let them know who you are and what you do. You might not want to say at that stage, oh, I saw your media request, but rather just say, here's who I am and here is what I do. And if they need to get information from you, they will connect the dots and get back to you. But of course, you can also use the email request. Now, a little thing that I've been using here is that sometimes I see there's, for example, a radio station or a journalist who covers many different topics who has a media request, and I would like to keep them, available, but I don't necessarily want to apply for this media request for myself or for a client. And for that, I have a very simple spreadsheet. And actually, I should add the spreadsheet to our resources for this evening. This is basically a media list. Here, you simply put in the name, the publication, the beat, in other words, the kind of topics that these journalists or reporters or podcasters or bloggers or producers cover, and then put in whatever information you can find, the kind of things they're looking for, the publication where they work, and go Google them, Google the living daylights out of them, find their LinkedIn address, connect with them. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on Facebook, or wherever it is that they are most active. And you might even be able to get hold of their contact details, like their email address and their real email address, as opposed to the masked one you see here, and even their phone number in some cases. So, for example, there is someone called Laura Ruthven who puts together an entrepreneur report every year. She reports on especially female entrepreneurs, but she also runs a couple of industry publications for example, the construction industry and for the tech industry. And this is a really good person to know about. Maybe you don't feel that you're the right person to connect with her now, but you might do so later. And I think all of you belong to the Media Strategy for Visionaries group on LinkedIn. And over there, I have actually shared her contact information and her call for entrepreneurs in the past. So this is a really good person simply to go and connect with. You just need to introduce yourself on LinkedIn. And if she's interested, she will probably get in touch with you. I once recommended a female entrepreneur to connect with her, and she ended up sending her a proposal about the one publication and appearing in 2 publications. So this is a really good option. I'll put her name in the chat there. That is Laura Ruthven. You can find her on LinkedIn, and you can also look out in the Media Strategy for Visionaries group. I've added her information and her call for entrepreneur coverage there. So there are plenty of things you can do with these contacts that you find here, especially within the South African market. Many of them realize that they're going to need experts at some time or another. So the fact that they know about you is a really, really big asset. I'm going to stop the share on there for now, and I'd just like to check in with all of you and hear, does this sound like a way that you'd feel comfortable approaching journalists or experts or people who can put you in different media publications? That would be my load shedding kicking in there. How do you feel? And you're actually welcome to open your mic as well if you're available for that. The big benefit of the media requests is that you can see exactly when they're looking for you. The drawback is these guys tend to be fantastically disorganized. So very often that media requests email, in the South African one, I often find 10:30, the email goes out that night they want somebody on their radio station. And this is SAFM, the national broadcaster. So you actually need to be ready to jump, otherwise you're going to miss the opportunity. I heard someone open their mic there.
It was me.
Let's go, Kendra.
So I have tried Source Bottle before, and I think also tried Harrow, but I don't, my writing skills, I think, need a bit of polishing. So I've got to keep working on that for 2. But I know you keep saying, keep trying and keep the content. You can always use it for something else.
Yes, that's a very, very good tip, Kendra, because now the thing is, we talk about writing skills and all of this, and some of us are working with writing all the time. Some of us don't. And it's a very big gear shift. But here's one of the big secrets. And I'm actually going to let the cat out of the bag on something that I do here, which makes it so much easier, because writing from scratch every time, no matter how confident and able you are to write, and even if you enjoy it, it takes time. That's one thing. And if there's a deadline, you're going to struggle, and it could take up your whole day. You've got a business to run, right? The other problem, or the other opportunity, I suppose, is that if you have material that's ready, you can always just very, very mildly tweak it so that it's ready. So I'm going to share a little trick on that with you in a moment, Kendra, and I hope this is going to be of tremendous value for you, that whenever you do that, you go and submit that content, you still have it to keep. Because this is one of the big things to look out for. If you do make a pitch to a media publication, very, very often they're not even going to tell you if they've used it. You might be lucky and they tag you on a social platform, or they mention it, or it comes up on your feed for some reason, but you might actually not know whether they've used it or not. So it's really handy that when you've done all that trouble, that you actually have a place to keep it all and a way to really communicate with them well. So Kendra, thank you for that one, because that is speaking from experience. And I do want to take my hat off to you for really putting out that content, because that is a really big, brave step to do it the first time. And one of the things you're going to find helps is the stronger your web presence becomes, the more likely you are to get accepted, because now you've got this killer web presence that makes it very clear to people that you're out there and you're an expert and you're an authority. And so putting you in their publication makes them look good. Right? When you have all those pieces in place, and that's a work in progress forever. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble. If you thought you can spend a weekend on this, you can do a blitz over a weekend and get a lot stronger, but it really is a process that is ongoing. And when starting out, or when starting a new project, it's really important to go and put those things in place, because it does give you credibility, gives you a better chance of getting placed. But the best way to approach it is give it a couple of hours a month, or find somebody who's going to help you with giving it a couple of hours a month, because it's much better to have that kind of slow burn rather than, overwhelming yourself with media requests for a short time. Thank you for that one, Kendra. Anybody else? Any other feedback on doing media requests?
Is it acceptable to use older material? Because I have a lot of material that's already published on my website, but very few people find the website. So I'm just thinking, tweaking a little bit and picking it up, because in the era where I still had interactions with printed publications, that was a big no-no. They always said, no, once it's printed, you never use the same material again.
That's a really, really good question, Susan, because it is something that is becoming quite controversial in the online space, because there is so much repurposing. But even in the olden days of printed material, when they were so strict about these things, they had a very good reason for this, and that is that they didn't want to make it look like they were just copying stuff, because they can get in trouble for that, right? Their reputation can suffer. But there's always been a beautiful word for this that can let you off the hook, and that is syndication. So, and the place we all encounter this is with comics, right? So when you read the comic strip, you can see Hagar the Horrible or Garfield or Dilbert, and it's syndicated to many different publications. All those publications have paid for the right for it to appear there. So if you are going to submit material that you already have, you have a couple of alternatives. One is to paraphrase, but why should you do all the work? The journalists are out there, right? They're going to get the credit for the article anyway. So what you can do is you can say, this is material I have already written. It is published here and here and here, but you are most welcome to make use of it. And most likely the way that you're going to get their attention best is with a summary. And then the secret is to share a link to where it is. And then you can say, you're welcome to make use of this with permission. You have my permission, because you've then given them written permission, right? You have my permission to use it as is, but you may want to paraphrase or summarize, etc., as you wish, with attribution, of course.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a very, very helpful thing, Susan. If you already have that databases of content, go and do that. But do keep in mind, if you pitch a journalist with a long article, they're just going to turn their head. They're just going to walk away. So very important to be upfront about that, first of all, but also that if you should be in a position where you're putting out the pitch, go in with the bullet points, because that's what they want. And they might want to build that out. But I'm also going to show you the little trick to to getting the best of both worlds. Have your bullets and also have the option to the long form content, which you can then use. Right. Great. Super. Anybody else on the media request content? Fantastic. I'm going to share again and show you, this is one of the things that I found most effective. And it's something I call the media request template. And I am including a link to that in your resources page, which, by the way, if you go to your Media Strategy Mafia folder, you're going to find Document 0 is your welcome page, and that's where you can see any upcoming events and the links to those. But as I prepare for the event, I put together a kind of an information page for you. So the welcome page has all the future topics. The first document is that January topic of your visionary media strategy. And then it has the video recording of our Mafia session, but it also has the LinkedIn profile refresh session that was the open event. And the same for this week's session or tonight's session, how to make the most of media placement. We've got the summary here, and you'll find the media request template here. The other thing I should provide for you is the media, I should put in here the media list template. So the media list template is the one where you can actually create your own media list. And in fact, I should probably quickly show you what my media list looks like. And I'm more than willing to share my media list with you so you can make a copy of your own. You can see here exactly what it looks like. We have, let's make it a little bit bigger. I just put in the outlet or the publication, the name of the journalist, the reporter, blogger, etc., and the role that they have, their email, their city, their industry or their beat, their Twitter information, their LinkedIn information, phone, any notes about them. You know, for example, sometimes I find something really interesting, like their life story or an interest we might have in common, so that you've got a in Afrikaans, we say an aanknopingspunt, a place at which to tie the knot, you know, a way to connect with them, an icebreaker.
Touch point.
A touch point, thank you. That's beautiful. Okay, so there's a conversation starter and any additional information that you might want to add. And over time, I've just been collecting a couple of these. We've got quite a bunch of different publications here, different media, different, like a journalist for Oprah magazine. You know, that could be a handy one to have in your pocket. Most of these are in South Africa, but I will add the link for you and just make sure that it is shareable, so that if you want to make use of this, I mean, you can entirely override mine and make use of your own, but it just might come in handy. There we go. So this is where you can get a couple of ideas like that, and just hold on to your media list. You might just want to do this on LinkedIn and just see who are these people in your world who might be really good ones to stay connected with. Okay, so here is the very, very, very big top secret thing that I do. And the best way to demonstrate is I'm going to put in a plug, an advertisement here for my client. And that is, oh dear. Okay. Oh, looks like I've actually closed his window. Here we go. Okay. So most of you have met my #1 top client and one of my favorite people, Ian Hatton, who's a conscious leadership expert and an international keynote speaker. And one of the ways that we started working together was getting him media placement. This process has been so effective now that it's becoming almost embarrassing. We're finding it difficult to keep up with promoting all the places where he is now appearing. And the great thing is, every time he goes into someone else's publication, especially if it's online, they share it on their social media and he gains new followers, and he then gets new prominence. And we've been really surprised to find that months after he appears on a podcast, for example, people come with a request for doing work with him. So it actually is a really, what they call on the internet, the long tail. People might not get in touch immediately, but they actually do come back to you over time. Now, recently, there was a media request for a topic on upskilling senior leadership, and he had some wonderful things to say about this. our quick cheat for doing this is that he will send me a voice note with his feedback on the topic. I then take his voice note, which can be a little bit stream of consciousness. I order it into a couple of bullet points that most closely address the journalist, the publication, their target audience, and current trends. And then I put it into a couple of bullets. But here's the secret. I do it all in a Google Doc, which I keep as a template for Ian. Now, this dilemma that Kendra mentioned of how do I write everything, on speed like that? Well, on this document, there's a bit of a template that includes information about Ian right at the end. This is a long document, so this is not my pitch. All I pitch them with is the bullets. And then after the bullets, I put in a link to this Google Doc. So on this doc, when they get it, they see the information that was here. We also keep that on our record, right? They can't edit the document, but they can access it. We begin with a summary, and because we use headings, we put in a table of contents here, which means when they click any topic, they can see the main headings. These are their bullets. These were the questions they asked, and we then answer their questions very, very simply in the heading. But when I go click on this, I go straight through to a detailed discussion. Right, so they can then see exactly what this looks like for other people. I'll actually put this in as an example as well, because anyone with a link can view this document. They can't edit it. And so I'll add this here as well. So you have a media request template and an example. There you go. Now, what this document does for me is a number of things. Oh, wait, but let me just go walk you through it a little bit more. All the information that Ian dictates goes into this whole section, and it's detailed. So we can actually go and use it for his material again. But the journalist then only needs to look at these main points when there's something they want to know more about. Oh, they want to learn about mentors, they click through to that section. So the Google Doc really becomes a very sophisticated way to organize this information for them. And at the end, there's a little bio of Ian Hatton, short enough to fit into their description, together with all his links, so they can learn more about him, because hopefully they're going to say, man, we need to do more interviews with this guy, and this is what has been happening. And then there's an opportunity to book a live Zoom call on his Calendly link. So if they really feel this guy is so interesting, we need a more detailed interview, they get an opportunity to book a 30-minute meeting with him, and they can then discuss it further. So we keep this document so that we have this information. Next time we have a related situation or related request, we can literally make a copy specifically for that journalist, tweak it, and we can make use of it. Or if we're looking for content for our people or for our programs, we also have this to fall back on. And I just have to say, I think that one deserves like a drum roll. It really makes it easier, since you are going to be writing this stuff anyway. Why not take advantage of it? So yes, it's a little bit more involved, but it does mean that you don't just send off an email and you never know what happens to it. But if and when you do respond to a media request by email, do make sure that you always send a CC to yourself, so that you know this is what you sent, you still have a copy of it. If they don't publish it, you can still go take advantage of it. I hope that's helpful, right? And then we have another, so what I've included here for you also is the blank template. This template is basically for me, so it includes my bio and so on. But this is exactly how I put that one together. And I do exactly the same system for me, for my company. And if you use this template, you can then literally go in, make a copy of this, put in your own details for your use. There is a small footnote to all of this, and that is it does take work. So there can be a bit of effort involved with this. But if you are at a point where media appearances are going to be important to you, be strategic. Don't apply to every single one. Really look at the ones that are best going to address your audience. That is the biggest secret. So we're coming a little bit close to the end of our session, but I want to dive into quickly the importance of really having your web presence up. Last month in our session, we talked about having your LinkedIn profile ready, and that is such a helpful place for people to find you. When your LinkedIn profile is fine-tuned, and I don't mean that you need to post every day or really do all the bells and whistles, but just enough that somebody who happens to Google you or who happens to stumble across you or who happens to hear about you can see what is it that you do, why do you do it so well, and how can they take the next step to work with you. Then you are in a very, very good position. So please, if you haven't taken a look at that session, it's also in your Media Strategy Mafia folder, and go dive in. Watch it at double speed if you have to, but do see that your LinkedIn profile is doing you all the favors it can. Susan, go ahead.
About that LinkedIn profile, again, it's now my sort of resistance to put my face to all of this. Because LinkedIn also, I think I even had it set up, but not used it all that often, is for the business that I'm running or going to do online. So I know, I understand I need to write my own profile and all of that. That to me, it's like confusing. Should I write more about the business, myself?
Yes, that's a very, very good point. And that is, to a large extent, it's a personal choice. One thing to know about LinkedIn is that it's going to give preference to your personal profile over your business, because what they want businesses to do is pay for advertising. So when you post, you're going to get a lot more traction than when your business posts. And Kendra and I have had this discussion recently as well. When you post, even though you're working from your business, you're going to get the best results, if it's a post, by posting yourself and letting the business share it. But the most important thing, Susan, is before even thinking of posting, see to it that your profile is set up. And on your personal profile, since you really want to showcase the business, really do it from the point of view of the business coming first. The only thing to be aware of is that people buy from people. And you've already had the experience of business success on your own over time. And you know that there are ways to really put the business first, put the business's success, the business's clients first. Within the way that LinkedIn works, you're probably going to get the easiest results from showing your face, being out there. And it's so hard. I mean, when there's a photo of me on social media, I grapple for days. But the fact is, the moment there's a face there, you immediately get higher engagement. People are strange animals. They really like to see other people. So it is a conversation we can probably dive into in greater depth. Now that you're a Mafia member, you do have access to that other recording. So take a look in your folder. And if you have half an hour, watch the videos at double speed, make use of the resources, and see what are the steps that you can already take with what you have available. But it is easier to get results by sharing your own face, your own name, just because people then have trust, especially online, because it's so easy to be scammed, etc. So again, it depends on the nature of your business. How much of your business do you expect to be international online? How much of your business do you expect to be maybe in your local environment? You know, that can make a big difference too, because if you're looking at local clients, then you can actually do very well with your business brand only. But Susan, I definitely recommend those resources now that you have access to them.
Okay,
Right. Fab. Kendra says there, I've mentioned Google Alerts, and yes, a great one to set up is go to alerts.google.com. Thank you for reminding me, Kendra. If you put alerts.google.com in your, just put your name on there, then you will be able to find when you're mentioned, they will send you an email. So put your name and make a separate one for your business name, and you will find that they send you an email when you're mentioned. Now you might have the same name as someone else, so you might get some false alarms too, but it is a good way to see when you are mentioned out there in the media. That is alerts.google.com. And the reason why is because it's very possible that people who, journalists who mention you, never tell you that they used your material, and then suddenly you see yourself in the paper. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. So alerts.google.com is the link there, and you'll find that also in the resource sheet. Thank you, Kendra. And our time is running out very, very quickly. I would like to share with you the possibility of creating a media kit. So long ago, they talked about a press kit. Today, we talk more often about a media kit. And this is just a place where people can go and find more information about you. If you have a website, I know, Susan, you were part of a very active debate about that yesterday. Whether you have a website or not, having that media kit ready is a really big asset. And once again, I'm going to blow my client's trumpet here. Ian Hatton's media kit looks like this. So we have a short link to his media kit. We have a QR code that can lead to his media kit. And this is what people get when they land there. It's a folder, and it has his beautifully designed speaker kit. So we made this in Canva using an infographic to communicate what he does. We've got a quote there from somebody who attended one of his talks, a map of all the places where he's worked. We've got badges for all his qualifications and honors and accolades. Then a bio, the topics he speaks about, and then a bunch of testimonials and a QR code and link, as well as all the links to his social platforms. So these are clickable materials that take people exactly to where they can learn more about him and do more with him. Then he also has a podcast one sheet. Next month, we'll be talking about podcasting. So podcast one sheet is literally one page that tells podcast hosts what they can expect when they deal with you. And then we have a couple of variations on his picture. You can see the friendly picture for when his audience needs to be amicable. And then we've got the grumpy picture for when he needs to look authoritative. So we actually have the whole combination there. But there are a bunch of options you can do with this. The real importance of this is just to have somewhere where people can go to find out more about you. So that also really, really helps. And the real idea behind this is when you are placed in the media, what are you going to do with that opportunity? It used to be that a website is a great place to take people, and the traction around websites has changed, can still be a very, very good asset. But the thing is, you don't know who visited your website. So if you do have something that people can do, then that can be such an asset to you, because now you can maybe get their email address. They connect with you on LinkedIn. Now you know who they are. If you have something they can get from you, like maybe a free report or a white paper or anything that they actually need to give you their email address so that they can receive that, then you know you can now be in touch with them in the future. So you know where to find them, because they're probably not going to come banging down your door to say, can we do business with you? But if you have their email address, you can do a little bit more research, see if there is something that they might need, if there's a reason to start building a relationship with them. The results often don't come from the hard pitch, whether that is to get a media placement or to get business. But very often when you can start to build that relationship by offering them something, that is when you get true value. And I see we've already come to the end of our hour, so I'm going to wrap up there. If any of you need to run, thank you very, very much for joining us. And if you'd like to stay on and discuss anything or ask any questions, you're most welcome